Hello and welcome once again to the video. In this one I shall be continuing my look at the 2023 Formula One World Championship, race by race, from the simple view of a fan's perspective. Nothing too technical, just my thoughts on the race. The most recent race being, of course, Las Vegas. Now what I will do is I will do my usual routine of the finishing order just down here, then the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, then the rundown of the Constructors' Championship here. Okay, let's go. Okay, so Las Vegas. Verstappen. Leclerc. Perez. Ocon. Stroll. Sainz. Sort out the focus in case that's not good. Okay. 7th, Hamilton. 8th, Russell. 9th, Alonso. 10th, Piastri. 'Gasly. Albon. Magnussen. Ricardo. Joe. Sergeant. Bottas. Tsunoda. Hulkenberg. And Norris. Okay, so now the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. I think my pen is starting to run out of ink. Hopefully I'll make it to the end of this write-up. Second is Perez. 273. Hamilton 232. Sainz 200. Alonso 200. Hang on, what am I doing? Okay. 6th, Norris. for making it to the end. So what do we think about that race? Let me put down fastest lap first, which was Piastri. Okay, let me also just adjust the focus a little bit there. Okay, now that was an extremely exciting race. I think everyone would agree with that. That was great. It was a fantastic circuit. I was very worried. I didn't see what the circuit was like. I don't have the F1 2023 game, so I couldn't race on the circuit, and I didn't know what the circuit was like for speed. So I was a bit worried it was going to be a bit, even though it was going down the strip, I thought it might be a little bit tight and twisty, apart from sort of one straight going down the strip. But it was fantastic. I love that last corner going into the pit straight, going into the start-finish straight. I mean, that's fantastic. The speed that they go around that last corner, it's incredible. To be watching cars going around there, it'd be amazing. So, two things. I wanted it to really show off Formula One cars going fast through the streets, and it does, because it's I think the second fastest race on the calendar. Average speed 125 miles an hour, I think, something like that. The average. But also I wanted it to be good close racing, able to overtake, and it was. There was plenty of that. There was even plenty of that for the lead as well, which was great. The lead changed a few times. The only disappointing factor was that it was the same driver winning again, of course, and that's not anti-Verstappen, because it wouldn't matter who it was. If one driver, even Hamilton, if they win 18 races out of 21, that's not good for Formula One. So it doesn't matter who the driver is. Everything else about it was great. Yes, they had problems with the track, with those water valves, those little tiny manhole cover things, water valve things. I don't know exactly how those water valves work, but they had a 40 on the track, apparently, and they were able to take them up. Okay, fair enough. But then they filled the holes with asphalt, it was reported. Now, okay, but isn't that destroying the use of those water valves? So they've got to take all that asphalt out now. They've got to drill it all up just after the race, and then put the water valves back in again. And also, how far down do those holes go? Obviously they were able to do it, but I would have thought those holes would have gone down a fair distance. Have they really filled it all in, and now they've got to unfill it all to get it back working to how it should be? Anyway, I don't know, but that was forgivable, I think, because this is just a normal road, of course, a normal street, a track. Never done a race before, never done any races before, so there's bound to be a few teething problems. It was a bit embarrassing, but they managed to get second practice in. 2:30 in the morning it started. It's the sort of thing you can do in Vegas. I've been to Vegas a few times, and yeah, it's a 24-hour city, obviously. Or at least the strip is 24 hours. But yeah, I really, really wanted the race to be a success, and it was. If I'd known beforehand that Verstappen was going to win the race, I would have been a little bit worried, thinking, possibly it's just another procession by Verstappen, but it wasn't. It was a great race, lots of action. And of course we had that big accident at the start, because the track was very slippery, no support races, and it was a little bit like being on an ice rink to begin with. As one commentator said, it's basically like being in damp conditions on Inters. And it certainly was for Norris, who I don't know exactly why he had his accident, but the inference was that it was due to the track being so slippery. But I haven't heard any official notification of why he span out, but that was a big accident to look at. I mean, the monocoque was perfectly fine. He was okay. He was obviously winded, shaken up a bit. But it wasn't a particularly dangerous accident. Just very high speed and would have winded him a bit. I know he did go to the hospital for a checkup afterwards, didn't he? But anyway, yeah, so that brought out the first safety car. I was a little bit worried then because I thought, is everyone going to be tiptoeing around for the whole race? But no, as rubber went down, gradually, very slowly, rubber went down, and the drivers got used to it. They were able to drive full pelt without making any mistakes. Alonso got caught out right at the very start, of course. He spun around, collected the Alfa Romeo of Bottas. Someone else collected Bottas as well. I can't remember who that was. Sainz ran into Hamilton as well. All of that happened at the start because cold tyres on a slippery track. It's asking for trouble, isn't it? But yeah, it was fantastic. Now, of course, Leclerc was pushed wide by Verstappen. I'm amazed that he only got a 5-second penalty. I'm surprised he wasn't ordered to give the position back. However, the penalty did affect him in the end because he was only, I think, well, actually, no, he got overtaken, didn't he, by Leclerc just before coming into the pits. So I thought that he was going to pull out like, I don't know, 10, 15 second lead or something before the first pit stop. So when he stopped for an extra 5 seconds for his penalty, it wouldn't make any difference at all. But in the end, it actually did. It did properly penalise him, that 5-second penalty. I don't like the comments from the team and from Max. The team saying, it's being investigated, Max, but we're not going to serve the penalty. Or we're not going to hand the position back. So they were already saying that they would rather have the penalty because they think that's the lesser fine, basically, having a 5-second penalty. So if I was a steward listening to that, I would think, right, okay, we're going to force them and tell them that they have to give the position back, or we're going to give them a bigger fine, a bigger penalty, because Red Bull were obviously thinking it was going to be a 5-second penalty, but I'm sure the stewards have the ability to give a number of different penalties they can decide. There's a particular crime, if you like, is being committed. They have an option of a number of penalties that they can give for that particular one. So Red Bull obviously thought they were only going to get 5-second ones, so they were thinking, that's okay, we can serve the 5-second penalty instead of handing the position back. Now, as a steward, I would then want to give them the maximum, whatever the maximum was. Maybe it is only 5 seconds. But also, I didn't like Max's comment about, okay, I've got a penalty, have I? Okay, send them my regards, he said. Being very dismissive, obviously thinking he wasn't in the wrong at all, even though he so clearly was. So, but that's typical Max. He gets extremely defensively aggressive whenever anyone suggests he might have done something wrong. But there you go. There's that guy on YouTube whose name I've forgotten at the moment, who does impersonations, and he does impersonations of angry, aggressive Verstappen. He does it very well. So that was rightly a penalty, as well it should be, basically, for Verstappen there. But then it was great to see Leclerc closing up on Verstappen. Maybe he burnt out his tyres too quick, Max, but Leclerc was right on him, and I thought this is great for the crowd. That's all I'm thinking about. That's all I was thinking about, is I just wanted the crowd there to be enthralled by it and go away from the race loving Formula One. And so Leclerc managed to get past. That was good. I was glad he did that, even though Verstappen was coming into the pits. And I'm sure Leclerc would have been told that Verstappen was coming into the pits, because I think we knew before that overtaking manoeuvre took place. But Leclerc passed him anyway, which was great. unnecessary, but really good to see. So that was, yeah, so we had that first penalty, first safety car, didn't we? Did anyone really gain in the first one? I mean, it happened only after like 2 laps, didn't it? 1 or 2 laps, so I don't think anyone really gained from that. The race went on from there, being Verstappen far down the field. He was about sort of 6th or 7th place, trying to fight his way through. But it was looking like it was going to be really touch and go for Verstappen, whether or not he was going to do it. Perez was also charging up through the field from the back of the grid after his, well, he had poor qualifying, but then he also had damage to his front wing. Because he had a coming together. Who did he have it coming together with? I forget. Or maybe it was him that went into the back of the Alfa Romeo of Bottas at the start. Anyway. Great drive through the field, and of course the Alpines were going very well as well. Ocon and Gasly were going extremely strongly. Verstappen found himself quite a distance behind, but then of course he had that ding dong with Russell. Now that was Russell's fault. I would say that was definitely Russell's fault. However, I don't know if Russell could have actually gone anywhere. I'm trying to picture that corner on the track, but I suppose Russell could have slammed on the brakes. Verstappen certainly had the right to be where he was on the inside there. He was far enough alongside Russell to take that position, but Russell didn't really have anywhere to go himself. But anyway, I would say, yes, it was Russell's fault. I suppose he had to have a penalty for that, and he did take the blame himself. But even though he probably didn't really have anywhere to go, apart from driving to Verstappen, I would still say he probably was right to be given a penalty. Now, Verstappen's car seemed to have all sorts of bits flying off it in all different directions, but when he came into the pits, because it was in a safety car, when he came into the pits, they didn't even change the wing. They thought, oh no, it's perfectly fine. We don't want to hold you here for another 12 seconds or whatever while we're changing the wing. So you can just go out if you feel okay. And I'm sure it must have slowed down Verstappen by a little bit, but it just goes to show how dominant the Red Bull is, that it can have bits flying off its car, smashed up all over the place, and it's still the best car out there. Some would argue that's because it's in Verstappen's hands, and that may well be the case. But it does tend to, as I always say, it makes a bit of a mockery of the amount of money, time, effort and money that is spent on these little fiddly little bits on cars, when if they break off, so what? The car is basically still as good. But yeah, that actually did help Verstappen in the end. It drew the field together, and allowed him to change his tyres because he was on older tyres than Leclerc. Leclerc stopped a lot later for tyres than Verstappen. And it really crippled Leclerc because Leclerc was the leader. So it's difficult to know what to do if you're the leader, because you can't do what the other drivers behind you are doing, because you don't know what you're going to do, what they're going to do, because you're the first one to approach the pits or the start-finish line. So it's exactly the same thing that happened to Hamilton in Abu Dhabi 2021. He didn't pit. He decided to go, or the team decided to go for the track position, because you don't know what the cars behind you are going to do. And that's what happened to Leclerc this time as well. Plus his tyres were a lot younger, so should he really pit with much younger tyres? In hindsight, yes, he should have pitted. He may well have lost track position, but he should have pitted in hindsight, of course. Let's just check the... There we go. Ooh, a little bit of a wobble there. Just checking the focus. Yeah, so definitely benefited Verstappen. He then came out of the pits. I think he was in 5th place, wasn't he? And he had Ocon, Piastri. Piastri still had to stop because for some reason Piastri went hard on his tyres. So he still had to stop again for the second compound, the mandatory second compound. But yeah, that's Verstappen chopped past the Alpine and the McLaren quite quickly. And then you had this fantastic battle. That was great. Perez, Leclerc and Verstappen. Now, some people might call that a Red Bull sandwich that Leclerc was in. But of course it wasn't. It was a Leclerc sandwich. Because if that was a Red Bull sandwich, then if you have, say, a real jam sandwich, you would have to call that a bread sandwich, wouldn't you? Because it's bread either side of the jam. And we don't call them bread sandwiches, do we? We call them jam sandwiches. So that was not a Red Bull sandwich. That was a Ferrari sandwich. Anyway, that's just my little rant on the way they describe sandwiches in sport. So, yeah, Leclerc was on older tyres, of course. It's just exactly the same as Hamilton in Abu Dhabi 2021. He got really done in by the second safety car. But that was a fantastic duel at the end there. And you had Verstappen managed to get past... well, of course, originally Perez got past Leclerc, didn't he? And then I think Leclerc got back past Perez or something like that. It happened so many times that I can't actually remember now. I remember Leclerc went off the track at one time. Perez got past him again. That was for second after Verstappen had already passed Perez and Leclerc. That's right. Perez got past Leclerc originally. I was in the lead. Then Verstappen was closing up on them fast behind in 3rd place. And so Leclerc obviously got a bit spooked by seeing Verstappen behind him. That gave him an extra bit of wind. And Leclerc managed to get back past Perez. But then Verstappen got past Perez. And then Verstappen got past Leclerc. And then Leclerc went wide at the first corner, was it? So Perez then got past Leclerc. And then on the last lap, Leclerc got back past Perez for second. It's fantastic. Lots of overtaking, a few manoeuvres for the lead as well. And yes, it was the same winner in the end, but a really, really good, exciting race to watch. One of the best of the year, I think, definitely. It's not all about who wins. It's about how they get there as well. And Verstappen had to fight hard for that win. Yet another good win is 53rd. Level with Vettel in 3rd place on the list, only behind Schumacher on 91 and Hamilton on 103. After the race, it was interesting to see Leclerc's reaction when he realised that the Red Bulls had stopped under the second safety car. He obviously didn't realise that. He must have been thinking, why are they so much faster? But yeah, they were on fresh rubber. But well done Leclerc for managing to get back past Perez. Fantastic. On the last lap. So yeah, I mentioned the Alpines. Fantastic by Ocon. Gasly just sort of fell away. He wasn't working well on the hard tyres, apparently. Stroll, fantastic performance by Stroll to come up from 17th to 5th. He does this sometimes. Most races he's nowhere. But then occasionally he'll pull one out the bag like this. Fantastic result by Stroll. Sainz, well, he had his 10 place grid penalty, didn't he, for hitting the water valve, damaging his car. So, and they had to replace parts, and that gave him a 10 place grid penalty. So a lackluster race for Sainz. Hamilton, he had a puncture early on, managed to pull his way up to 7th. A fun race for him. He said afterwards he enjoyed it. Lots of overtaking. I think they all enjoyed this track, probably apart from Norris, who didn't get a chance to enjoy it. Piastri, he was doing well, but he was hampered by the fact that both of his first stints were on the same compound tyre, so he had to have another stop. Magnussen, well, the Hasses are still woefully slow, as are the Alfa Romeos at the moment. Albon and Sargent were great in qualifying, but then just slipped gradually down the field as the race went on, which is what they thought would happen. But Albon just missed out on his 11th place, because remember, he's 7-11. He wasn't 7-11 today, just missed. Ricciardo, lackluster again from the AlphaTauris. Hulkenberg retired. Yeah, so not much to say about the bottom half of the field, really. Russell was doing really well. He could have got on the podium had he not had his ding-dong with Max. It's not been a good year for him. If we look at the championship, over here, look at this. Mercedes and Ferrari. Now, one race to go, Mercedes and Ferrari. 4 points apart. And here, McLaren and Aston Martin, only 11 points apart. Alpine well set, as they have been for a long time now, in 6th place. Williams will be pleased that AlphaTauri didn't score any points, as they didn't either. So it's going to be very difficult for AlphaTauri to catch Williams in the last race. So I think Williams are nailed on for 7th place, which is a good result. They would have settled for that most definitely at the beginning of the year. They were 10th last year and the year before, I think. So it's anyone's guess who's going to finish second in the championship. But I'm tending to favour Ferrari now, because Abu Dhabi is a similar circuit, sweeping straights, a similar circuit to Las Vegas. So I think the wind is behind their sails at the moment. But McLaren should hold off Aston Martin, I think. And look, Norris unfortunately missed out on loads of points. He could have been up to 4th in the championship after this race had he not crashed. He can still get 4th, of course, in the last race, but it's going to be difficult. But that's a real battle between them. Leclerc, I would say, is possibly in it, but I think it's too much for Leclerc to do. And obviously Russell's out. Sainz, Alonso and Norris battling for 4th. Whether they care about finishing 4th, who knows? Norris probably does. I don't think the other two do, especially not Alonso, but I'm sure Norris does. Mind you, Alonso is so chilled out at the moment that maybe he would be keen to get 4th. I think he would say it's for the team anyway, not really for him. Perez is now 2nd. He's now cemented 2nd place in the championship, so well done, Perez. Now, of course, the other thing with Verstappen winning this race, that thing that I spoke about in the last race, is potentially going to happen now. Quite likely going to happen, and that is that Red Bull will finish the year having won 21 of 22 races. Just like McLaren in 88, they would have won every race apart from one. Now that's gonna eat into Horner's brain. It certainly would if I was Horner. That would irritate me immensely. He'll brush it off, of course, and say 21 wins is great. Of course it is. But you get so close to winning all of them like that, then it is a big disappointment if you don't manage it. If they had won 19 out of 22, then you wouldn't be thinking like that. But to win 21 out of 22, which it could well be after the next race, then that I feel that's devastating for Red Bull. Okay, so there you have it. Fantastic race, one of the best races of the year to date, and obviously not a comfortable win. Was I going to say? I'm so used to saying that. Yet another win for Verstappen, but the way that race was won was very exciting. So much overtaking throughout the field, really fast track, great race. So I'm sure everyone left that race loving Formula One for the first time maybe, or just a little bit more. Okay, so that's the end of my video, I think. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. my channel. I do lots of different videos, not just Formula 1. And yeah, so thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you'd like to leave any comments or like the video, anything like that, that's more than welcome. And I will see you on the very next video. Goodbye for now. Thank you very much.